Alrighty, so I'm James Device, and I'm a TA in the Willis Center, and I'm also working with our conference committee this year. We're very excited. We've had a lot of interest, I thought, anyway. And so if submissions go like this, everyone's got a pretty good chance of making some money this semester. We'll turn the time over to Brother Tanner, who's going to be...
Why don't you tell them where they can go to get the template? Somebody asked me earlier.
Oh, okay. So if you have signed up on the laptops outside, we'll be sending a link. I tried to send it today, but ran into some crazy, weird problems. But you'll be getting an email, and in that email will be a link to a Canvas, and you just click Enroll on the Canvas course that comes up. It doesn't affect your credit hours or anything. It's just a pathway for us to provide you all with the information that you're going to need for the conference, and so that you can download and submit the template for your great idea. It'll be there under Files. There'll also be some supplemental material on there, like some YouTube videos or past speakers that have talked about doing great ideas. So if there's any questions about that, you can come talk to myself, or just make sure that you have signed up on the laptops outside. Good. All right, so we'll turn the time over to Brother Tanner for our lecture today.
Okay. Thanks, James. Wow. Kind of go, is this all there is? Come on. Hopefully it will be useful to all of you, and I'd be glad to take questions even during the presentation if you'd like to ask me things about what we're doing. So I want to talk tonight about what's in the mind of an entrepreneur and what you can do to become a more effective and successful entrepreneur. Okay? So what I like to do is share a little bit, just like this man leaning over in the light bulb. You know, we often associate the light bulb with, a new idea. And that's what this is to display. Let me just give you briefly how I define an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is doing something more than just a business owner, even a small business owner. They generally create something, organize and manage an enterprise. This is even something I came up with. I don't know if I can read it as well, but it's using innovative combinations of business concepts and technologies to produce or market products, services, or processes. And it's usually doing that in a new, better, or cheaper way. Basically, it can also be faster, but to serve a customer's needs, assuming risk in order to get great rewards. This is what I'm really saying is there's something unique about entrepreneurship that's a little bit different than just pure running a business. And I want to say something right from the get-go. Where it's a little different is for those people that are franchisees. In fact, there's nothing wrong with being a franchisee. What you're doing is you're taking the entrepreneurial skills and talents of the person who set up that organization and applying it for yourself to run a small business. And that's perfectly fine for many people. In fact, that's often a safer way to go and a great way to go. So I do not mean to be putting that down in any way. But an entrepreneur takes a little different risk and usually having to do with creativity and doing something that's newer or often related to a startup. What we see is there's 5 skills of innovators. 5 skills. And this is what I really would like to share a lot of tonight, is what these different skills are. First of all, associating. I'm going to talk about that last because that's where a lot of the other 4 come together. Questioning, observing, networking, and experimenting. So those 5 points. This is not a test. You're here on a workshop because you're trying to learn something. So it's perfectly great to take notes. It's never a bad idea because you're more of an active listener. But I hope that part of what we do with this is as you go forward and think about some of these things, that you will start to do some of them. That's way more important. So the first one I'd like to talk about is questioning. In the template that James is talking about, we basically do the typical things that all newspaper articles and magazines and what you should be trying to do with your new idea. What is that? We call it the who, what, where, when, why, how. Okay, those are always you try and answer that. And as you read through your template, you're going to see those types of questions. The who, what, where, when. But probably the most important thing for you to be thinking of is why, or why not, or what if? What if I could do this? What if we could make something simpler or cheaper, or just change it a little bit? And we're going to talk about various people who have done some of the new types of things that we usually refer to, that type of new product or service or process. Those tend to be what we would refer to as inventions. Not always are the inventions, but that's part of it. But I want to talk about things that are other than just inventions. We'll share some points. I'm going to share just some things about various people who have done that aspect, but also some common everyday things. Question. Ask that why. One of the great things you can do is if you're in a team, for instance, when you're coming up with something, ask why. And then when you get the answer back, ask why they gave that answer. We heard a little bit of that 2 weeks ago when he talked about that. And then ask why again, or why does it make a difference? As you drill down to understand that, you start to find out why people choose certain products. What are they trying to do? Clayton Christensen did this, and he's done unbelievable studies and is the founder of of what we call disruptive technologies. Disruptive changes in the status quo. And what they've found is that often what we think a product is used for is not even what people use it for. They'll use it for something different than what was the original intention, or maybe not even recognized. He found, for instance, that in many people, just getting a drink, a cup of coffee, or a shake or something on their way into the office wasn't necessarily about just having a drink. It was something that would be taking up the time rather than worrying about traffic. It was something that would relax them or give them something different than to worry about that. It was fulfilling that need. And so he talks about the concept, I'll go over in a little bit more, is to hire something to solve a job that people want to have done. Hire something to solve that. So from questioning, ask the why. Ask the why. Observing. Be observant. I always like what the young Mormon, when he was a young boy, remember? He was chosen to do something because he was quick to observe. He noticed things around him. I'm going to share some things with you a little later tonight of just how people observe problems in their life and made a difference and came up with solutions. When you do those observing, again, as where Clayton Christensen in his books about the innovator's solutions, he talks again about this. Customers have a job to get done, of which they hire tools that are products, services, and processes to do it. That's really what you're coming up with. So as you're thinking of an idea, what is it that you're trying to do? You're trying to find tools. You're trying to find something that people will, quote, hire. There's a very important reason why he uses the word hire. It means that we do something. We actually pull money out of our wallet, and our job is to get people to pull money out of their wallet and give it to us and get it into our wallet, right? Hire. So a lot of what we do, whether it's for a non-profit or a profit, is to get money to come over, to be hired to do something. Look at this next point. It isn't always just about function. I don't think my wife has a Gucci purse, but do you think people that buy a Gucci purse are buying a Gucci purse because of the function of carrying around all the stuff? No. It's for other things, isn't it? If they were just looking to carry things around, they could get a brown paper bag or a plastic bag, right? Or they could get a purse at Kmart. or some other place, right? It isn't always just about function. There's other things that people want. It may be very emotional or social. So when you're solving problems, which is what entrepreneurship is about, innovating things that solve problems, you need to look for sometimes not just what it does functionally, but what do people feel about it? Think of Starbucks. Do you guys know how the guy that started Starbucks came up with even doing it? Well, there's been coffee shops forever, right? But he was over in Europe and he noticed what people were doing in the coffee centers, coffee shops over there. They were basically, it became a place where they were really socializing and networking with others, and it was a place to go. There was a movie on years ago called Cheers, and that's really what it was talking about. People would go to that particular place in Boston because they could hang out with their friends and socialize. That's really a lot of what Starbucks is. It's a place where people can go just relax, maybe get on their internet, but he noticed that in Europe, and he said, and he also noticed a couple of drinks that he had never even heard of. Frat is not what we do it, but an espresso. And some of those things he said, oh wow, this is different. This is a different, slightly different. And he brought that back to the United States. And now we have thousands of Starbucks because people want the experience. They could go buy a cup of coffee someplace else, but it's the experience. Okay? So it isn't always just the function. It's sometimes many other things. You need to look at how people interact with those things that they're dealing with, those objects, those products, those services. What do they do? And look for surprises. That's what you need to be observant for. Things that you don't expect to have happen. Look for things that are nonverbal or even non-visual cues. You may see somebody that they kind of always go to a certain area and you kind of go, why does she do that? What is she like being over there when she comes into this room? Maybe it's because she likes, and find that out. This particular customer likes it because of the angle of which she sees light coming into a room. Something as simple as that. Or she really likes, whatever it might be that's something unique about your store or your product as she uses it in her home. Some people like the feel of it. I have one of these little controls in my hand, How does it feel? What does it do? We'll talk about toothbrushes in a minute for some of that same reason. So as you go from observing, some of the next things you need to do as you do that is sometimes there's a process known as workarounds. When you run up against an obstacle, and I can speak to you from experience, I'm running up against a few obstacles. We're getting our minor approved here on campus in entrepreneurship. We're going to work around it and make certain we do the things we need to make certain we meet all the requirements that sometimes other people have. That's what you have to do. You have to have the attitude. There's people out there that do want this because I've tested some of it out. Maybe some other people don't want it, but work around it. Figure out. Some of you, many of you and most people on campus don't know a little of my background, but the company that I was with, that I spent a lot of time with, is called Extra Space Storage. And we built what's now the second largest self-storage company in America. But when we went public, this was a pretty big achievement to do because we had a lot of things that we needed to work around. If any of you have ever been in any real estate transaction, there's always a list of things that need to be done before you get the closing to take place. We had, because we were buying lots and lots of properties and putting some into this new entity, we had stacks of books. It was about over 2,000 pages that listed items. So on each page would be maybe 20 things that needed to be done. So 20 times 500, that's just what was listed, or documents that need to be referred to. And we just go, this just can't be done. But our CEO and others just said, you know what? We're going to do what it takes to get this done so that we could go public. And the story for Extra Space Storage is we went on to become one of the leading companies. In fact, I understand that the company right now, that's now worth over $5 billion $5.5 billion, is the largest public company located in Utah. This little company that was just started. So work around. You work around to overcome certain problems. Networking. We need to, most people talk about networking for the normal thing that I have at the bottom of the slide. It's okay to do regular networking, which is to tap resources, advance yourself, share common interest. That's what you always hear about networking, to do those three things primarily. If you want to be innovative, you have to do networking outside your normal contacts. Let me say that again. If you want to be innovative, you need to do networking outside your normal contacts. That means outside your normal friends, and you need to be conscious about it. Try and target people outside that group. You need to do that to get ideas. It's combinations of things that maybe haven't been brought together that are often the solution, that are really what great ideas are all about. It's usually not correct to say, oh, well, he did this. For instance, Henry Ford, right? People think, oh, Henry Ford created the assembly line in cars. Well, assembly lines were around. There had been other things mass-produced. What Henry Ford did is he applied the concept of a line of production, a mass production, that had never been done with cars. That's all he did. He just brought that idea together. Okay? That somebody else had used this method of production, and he used it with cars. And he went on to build, an empire. That's often what entrepreneurship is. It's changing things a little bit. I like to use the word tweak. Okay? Tweak or change or modify something that's out there. If you were in my class today, you heard Mike talk about copying. Actually, that's part of it. You sometimes can copy some aspects of things that are out there. Don't invent everything new, but copy some ideas that are, without, you don't want to break any laws of copying, but you can do a lot of things without breaking laws and without necessarily changing the intent. For instance, there's lots of different people that sell hamburgers, but they do it in a different way. There's different things that they're known for. Okay? That's part of what you need to do as you work this through. So, networking outside your normal contacts, you'll find new perspectives, surprises. It's a way for you to test your idea. And that's an important part. So, networking outside your normal group. Next, experimentation. Experimentation is the opportunity for you to nail, really get it down. What is the problem and what are the solutions to that problem as you look at ideas that people are willing to pay something for? So as you do that, one of the things that you'll find is in experimentation is take something apart. Pull the thing apart and figure out, why does this work like this? What is it? When it's a physical thing, sometimes taking something apart lets you know, oh, this is how it works. What if I want to make it work like this? So by taking it apart, it helps you understand some of those things. Try out something new. Take a different or multiple jobs. Many of you have jobs here. Jobs are great learning opportunities. That's what's so good about being here at BYU Hawaii. Most of you have jobs. You may not like the job. I'm going to tell you later tonight about a guy who had a custodial job that became a millionaire just by being observant. He was a custodian. I'll tell you about that in a moment. So, taking jobs, learning new skill. We get this opportunity next. Many of us get to live with somebody from a different culture or another land, right? You don't even have to go to another country, although many of you are here from another country, so you have that opportunity here. Create a prototype using something like a 3D printer. We hope to have a class in 3D printing. We hope possibly next semester. Probably won't happen now. It's where a prototype is something where you make a model, and with 3D printing, we can often do that much faster and cheaper and change things. But that is really one of the next revolutions in the world, I believe, is where you can print anything. Any of you, who's heard of some of the things that are possibly to be printed right now? Who can just tell me some things? James.
You can print toys, you can print guns.
Print toys, you can print guns.
Real guns.
Real guns. Print a gun. What else? Skyler.
Print an automobile.
You can print an automobile. Wow.
The first automobile that runs, all they had to do was put gas and oil in it and it drove away.
Printing an automobile. Have any of you seen the little YouTube about printing an ear? You can print in the cartilage of an ear. And it's not just made out of plastic. It's actually made out of living material. They're dripping down. Okay, they can make parts of skulls. In other words, we're going to see things changing dramatically in the area of 3D printing. Literally, it's a revolution coming. But this is a great way for you to test out, try out, if you're making a product, is to try and print it out. And there's shops that you can do that in, and maybe we actually have one of the printers here on campus, but we want to do more and maybe have a class. Okay? Just some way for you to, again, do some of your experimentation. Next, we need to be able to have courage. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and an innovator, you got to be willing to take a risk, challenge the status quo. Now, being at a university, some people may not like hearing what I just said. Right? They don't like that concept of changing the status quo. Again, to quote a good friend of mine, Clayton Christensen, on this disruptive technology, he basically predicts that in the next 15 years, over 50% of universities in America will be bankrupt. 15 years. Why? Because the way in which education is being made available to people is changing, with online opportunities to take classes from free, great courses, and then to what will be part of the difference is you have students and you have the knowledge base, but you'll also have more of the company you may be working for that will say, get some of this free here, and we as a company will give the rest of it to you that's specialized the way we want. And so you go, well, why should I pay the $120,000 to go to Duke when I can get the best from Stanford and Harvard and even Duke, some of their online courses. So again, things are changing. The status quo in all fields is changing, and you have to be willing to challenge it. Use your observations, your questioning, your network outside your normal contacts to generate innovative ideas that a customer will pay for. So again, one of the things we're talking about as you do your great idea is try and think of something that somebody may be willing to pay something for. Doesn't have to be a lot, but we're talking not just an idea to make the world have more flowers in it. Although I'd love to have more flowers, my wife would love to have more flowers. That isn't what we're looking for in this particular competition. Okay? So something that a customer would pay for. What we do is we usually hear the phrase, oh, think outside the box. It isn't just outside the box, it's inside the box. I just read an article last week about a guy who's looking at the way people ship things in their boxes. And he's done these studies where he goes, this is crazy, the way people ship certain things. It's very, very inefficient. And so again, in that example, looking inside the box, how do you make what you ship to people more effective in that? But I mean that in other terms rather than just a true physical box. Look at inside and outside, how to make changes. What you're really doing is you're trying to identify pain. What we mean by that is you're identifying problems. So I use that synonymously. You need to look at what is it that would make your life better. Think of that right now. What would make your life better that you'd maybe be willing to pay a little bit of money if and there's the what if something could be available to you. And maybe you can figure out how to make that available not only to you but to other friends and others that are willing to pay a little money for it. Again, that's money is what we call being hired. Okay. Innovation. What is this innovation? again, as the topic for this is, we often refer to what's called the NBC of innovation. New, better, cheaper. New, better, cheaper. Here's just a few new things. You can just read these. I'm not going to read these all to you, but many of these have changed the world, whether it's telephones, vaccinations, some of these different, the wheel, of course, made huge changes. Things, smartphones, LASIK eye surgery. There's a lot of things. It's not just all products, it's ways of doing things. So again, it's new, better, cheaper. New, better, cheaper what? Products, services, and processes. That's really how we see most of our innovation coming in that. Many are cheaper. We have things like discount airline tickets. We're able to get cheaper food or clothing, discount brokers, cheaper phones, cheaper internet carriers. A lot of different things where especially you can cut the labor cost. That's how a lot of things happen that are cheaper. But where's most innovation in that NBC? It's mostly in the B. Most are better. Again, tweaking, modifying something a little bit, combining something that hasn't been combined before. See, this is not just a cell phone anymore, right? What is this called? Smartphone. What's different about it from a cell phone? It's what? Yeah, get on the internet. That's just a combination of a couple things, right? People said, why do I want to carry around a cell phone? And I got to carry around my laptop, right? I can do a lot of stuff in the internet. I can do it all right here. Okay? Combinations of things. Quieter, locally grown, more friendly to women or men, more environmentally sound and safe, lasts longer. Those types of descriptions are what most innovations are. Does that make sense to you? Okay? So as you're thinking of your idea, think of some of these types of things. How do I make something a little bit better? Possibly in some of these categories. Okay. I'd like to just share with you just a couple things, because sometimes there's a lot of women, and we have still quite a few in the audience today, sometimes go, oh yeah, it's always the men that did these things. Well, let me just share a few things that women came up with. See this Tabitha Babbitt? Back in 1812, Tabitha Babbitt, a woman, came up with the circular saw. I think that's pretty cool. Now, obviously, you tend to do innovations in things that you work with a lot. So as you look through this list of things, you'll see that it's a lot of these things are things that women have worked with throughout their lives. And that's true of most innovation. It's things you're working with all the time or have a need for. So on the left-hand side are basically innovations that happened in the 1800s at some point. From refrigerators, washing machines, even a rolling pin, life raft, emergency staircases, fire escapes. Those were all invented by women. But even this century, windshield wipers, Kevlar. You know what Kevlar is for? Right? What's Kevlar for? What does it do? Say that again? Stops bullets, right? Yeah, that's when, it's a very interesting material that is able to give but not be penetrated. Very, very strong. Okay? One of the products that I used in my business in construction is Geobond by Patricia Billings. Okay, this material that's used all the time in the construction industry. Here's a few inventions by Mormons. Everybody recognizes the first one. That's one that we all go, oh yeah, Mormon invented television. Philo Farnsworth. But look at some of these other things that Mormons have invented. The odometer, William Clayton. We know him for writing the song, Come, Come Ye Saints. But when the Mormons were coming across the plains, he created this little gear that he hooked to the wagon wheel, and as it clicked every so many times, it clicked. He invented the odometer. Stereo sounds was by Harvey Fletcher. Condominiums, Keith Romney. How about the department store concept? Did you guys know Brigham Young came up with the concept of department stores? It was called ZCMI, Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institute. It's a long name. That's why everybody just call it ZCMI. But he thought of that. Instead of just a little country store, a department where in one building there would be hardware, there would be clothing. He came up with that concept. The Artificial Heart by Jarvik. Anyway, it goes on and on. Video games. The guy that really created the very first, mainly the first one, of Pong, was Nolan Bushnell. There's a lot of things. So what I'm saying is, don't be concerned if you're a Mormon that you're not getting out enough circles to look at inventive things, or a woman. There's lots and lots of things that have been invented by Mormons and women. I need some people to come up here, because you're all just sitting down there. Unless you don't want to be videotaped, we're videotaping. I need to have people come up. So I'm just going to have everybody in the first 4 rows here. I'll start coming up here. I want to have you pull something out here. Okay. What have you got there, Tim? What is it?
Tissues.
Tissue paper. Okay? Let me tell you a little story about tissue paper. Darwin Smith was working for a big, huge paper company, and he said, this is kind of crazy. We're just a stodgy paper company, but I'm going to go into the commercial marketplace. Well, Darwin Smith was able to effectively go out and start competing against everything. In fact, I would guess that nearly every one of you used a product made by his company, Kimberly-Clark, either Kleenex or toilet tissue. Okay, thanks. You can take that. Okay, let's see if I can get this one first. Yeah, I don't have backwards work. Okay. What do you got there, Skyler?
I have Maui-style potato chips.
Maui-style potato chips. Let me tell you a little bit about not Maui, that's a different uniqueness, again, tweak, but the original potato chips. Anybody know how they first were created? They were created because a hotel restaurant chef wanted to get back at one of his customers who was complaining about the chips being too small or soggy or whatever, so he says, I'm going to get back. I'm going to cut these things really, really thin, fry them up so that they crack when he opens them. I'm going to put too much salt on it. So what happened? Took it out to the guy.
Loved them.
And he loved him and said, I want some more. Okay, you get to keep that if you want. Let's see if we can get something else. How about this one? I may not be able to have everybody do it. Hold it up. What is it?
Spam.
Spam. Any of you know the story of Spam? What is it? What is Spam? Besides everybody in Hawaii eats Spam, what is it? What's in it?
Some sort of meat.
It's meat. It's canned meat, right? Do you know why it was invented?
For the war.
For the World War II. You got it. Okay? In Minneapolis, Spam was invented for the soldiers to be able to have something, canned rations that had meat in it besides jerky that lasted forever. This thing's been on our shelf since we came here. We bought this in some of our food storage, this type of stuff, okay? Spam. Now, this one's been tweaked a little bit, right? This one's a Spam light. But the Russians, who are our allies during World War II, basically, one of the things that they liked more than almost anything else Americans did is we gave them a lot of our Spam. They said to us, They made a trek. Some of the Russians came to America basically because this product saved millions of lives. Have some Spam. Okay. What have you got there?
Can you give me the name of it?
Okay, that's part of the secret. I'm going to tell you about that. Okay, before any of you say what it is,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what it used to be and who came up with what it became. There's a lady named Frida Kaplan who wanted a job where she could breastfeed her baby girl. And the job that she had, they wouldn't let her do that. So she had some relatives that were working down at the LA produce market. So she was getting up really early and she could have flexible time. Well, she was up doing accounting for almost a year and a half, but eventually she went down into the LA produce market. I grew up in Southern California. It's where all the people bring in their produce, and then they take it out to the stores from there. Well, she later got to where her particular area, she started do specialized and exotic foods and produce. Her name was Frida Kaplan, and somebody wanted mushrooms, so she pretty soon got to be known as the specialist in mushrooms. Well, you know what happened is Safeway knew that she specialized in things, and they said, you know, we had a customer come in that had been on a mission in New Zealand. Wonder where he was from being a missionary, right? And he wanted a Chinese gooseberry. Do you have any Chinese gooseberries? And Frida says, I don't know what it even is, but I'll try and figure it out. Well, she found out and had somebody that had 2,400 pounds of it, and she says, I got a customer to give to Safeway. Well, guess what she did? Frida not only became known for that, she ended up going to what country? Where do you think they're from? New Zealand. So what did she actually get the people in New Zealand? To change the name of the fruit from Chinese gooseberry, which I can see why they changed it, to what? What's this called?
Kiwi.
Kiwi fruit. Okay, thanks, Morgan.
Thank you.
What have you got there? FedEx. Do you know the story about FedEx? FedEx. This is a good one for you that are students. The guy that came up with the idea of overnight delivery, he did it for a school paper. It's kind of like a great idea. And guess what grade he got? A C. Do you think his professor probably made a mistake? How big do you think FedEx and the overnight delivery is right now? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, isn't it? So my point is, sometimes you have a great idea and people may not even recognize it. You may not even win one of our prizes, but if it's a really great idea, it still may make sense. Okay? You won't want this. It's nothing. Okay, thanks. Let's see. I've got a few more here. Okay. That's actually this I want to do, but it's used like that. What have you got?
Straw.
Okay, you got a straw, but what kind of straw?
Bendy straw.
It's a bending straw. So again, it's not just a straw. It got, what's the word I like to use? Everybody say it. Tweaked. It's modified. So who do you think really likes the straws that bend? Kids? Kids really like it, don't they? I did. And who else uses straws that bend? Old people. You ever been to a hospital? You ever been in a hospital and you're laying on bed and you're trying to drink? If there was a straight straw, it doesn't work, right? Again, tweaking. I don't think you'll want the straw. You can take them home if you want.
Take one. You can have the other though.
Okay, thanks. Here's something. Okay. This one. What have you got?
Toothbrush?
Toothbrush? Is that all? Are they all the same?
No.
Okay. Sorry, one is you. Well, a couple are you, so you won't be taking those home. But they're different, aren't they? What's different about them?
The bristles.
The bristles are different?
And then this one is to like scrub your tongue, right?
Ah, you got it. Okay, the one in the middle, hold them up real high. The one in the middle, oh, now it's not in the middle. That's my toothbrush. I don't care what kind of toothbrush I have. The one on the left, my wife, Sean, orders them special because she likes that brand of toothbrush. And that's what happens when you're innovative. Some people like something just because of the color or what it's like. And the one on the closest to me is a tongue brush. But you know the guy who invented that? He was an LDS mission president. And he couldn't figure out how to market. He took it to Walmart. He tried to get it sold, but you know what he did? How he finally marketed it? Any of you know the story? He went to BYU and talked to some students who figured out for him how to market it. And what did they do? They basically did it for free. They used YouTube. And again, this is how you might do your business, is through something like that, YouTube. And they built it around the concept of fresh breath. Fresh breath by cleaning your tongue. So you don't have bad breath, so you can kiss the girl. Okay. You can take the new toothbrush home. Okay? Just a couple more things. Okay. What have you got?
Guava Nectar.
Guava Nectar what? Is that in there? What are you really holding?
The container.
It's a container made out of what?
Stock, cardboard.
Cardboard and what else? Any of you know what's in this carton? Wax. The guy that used to teach here last year, his name's Steve Blazer, was an accountant in Phoenix in the 1970s and doing accounting for this farmer. And the guy had a lot of money, even more than most farmers. And Steve asked him, "What's all this royalty you're getting?" He says, "Well, come here, let me show you." And he pulled out this. Not this one, but another one. He said, "I figured out how to make a carton for milk." Do you see what I'm talking about? Being observant, quick to observe, solving a problem. Okay? Something as simple as cardboard and wax and folding it the right way is how he's able to do it. Sorry, I don't have guava juice for you. Some of you get something. Okay, couple more items and then we're on. What have you got?
A shaver,
What kind?
plastic,
Plastic.
disposable.
Disposable, right? Do you know who invented the first razor? Well, I can't remember his name either, but he did it back during World War I. And he tried to figure out how people actually were dying from shaving. Did you know that? Because the infections of this. So he wanted something that was flexible. And he finally figured out, he tried several different ways of combining metals, and he finally saw his friend eating a sandwich and goes, maybe if I combine the steel and the iron and some copper real thin, it will take the edge and it won't just snap. He created that. But how did he really get the big business? By the way, his name was Gillette, I now remember. Anybody recognize that name? Gillette? He ended up having the government bought a whole bunch of them. Why were they really concerned about people having a close shave in World War I? Do you know what happened in a lot of World War I? People wore gas masks because that was how a lot of the fighting was going on, was gassing. So a clean-shaven soldier was able to have a tight-fitting gas mask. Since then, they've been tweaked. It's not about the disposable part anymore, right? We just buy that. That's just free. We don't care even about if it's an expensive razor. It's all about the changeable razor itself. Sorry, this isn't brand new, or I'd give it to you. Okay. 2 more items. Come on over. This one. You may have seen me listed this one before. What is that?
It's a mask, paper mask. I guess it's one time.
One-time paper mask. Did any of you see who invented this? Who was it? Jim Sorensen. I was the home teacher to Jim Sorensen. Jim Sorensen was the wealthiest man in Utah when he died 3 years ago, worth $4.6 billion. You know how he made those billions of dollars? That and other inventions. Jim Sorensen, when he was a kid, his teachers thought he couldn't read. But he was able to see things differently, maybe partly because he had a condition called dyslexia. Okay, he noticed the people at the hospital were going through cloth face masks, but they had been stained. And he thought, why don't we just make disposable ones? So he invented disposable. You can actually have that if you want. Okay, thank you very much. One last thing I already told you guys about. Who can remember what I said about these? Who figured out to come up with a trash liner? Huh? A custodian. Guess where he was a custodian? JPL. Do you guys know what that is? Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's a bunch of scientists. But it was a typical, just a regular custodian who was dumping. Think of trash cans without liners. We were so used to having it. Think of having garbage in there, like bananas and old tomatoes, right? It'd be pretty smelly. He just figured out, you know what? Why don't we just create a liner for it? and he became worth millions. The custodian who became worth millions by being quick to observe, solving a problem that people hadn't even thought was a problem, right? You can do the same kind of things, but you have to have the attitude that you can do it. So as you look at just everyday objects around you, this is what I hope you're able to do. This is what I really hope you will strive to do. Think of ideas. Just look around you for things that can maybe make a change in your life. We're basically running out of time. I just want to share with you that this opportunity for you to come up with ideas is an exciting time. Yeah, it's just an idea. Some of them stink. We'll get some of your ideas and we're going to go, whoa, where did this one come from? But that's okay. Okay? If you're in my one class, I'm going to ask you to not only do your idea, I'm going to ask you to share it with some other people and have them give you critique. Most of the time people don't give honest critiques, but at least you'll get some feedback. And then you submit it again for the competition. If you're here and you're not in my class, you just need to submit it, or some of the other entrepreneurship classes. These are just some ideas, some examples. Okay, but these are things you can do. So as you think of some of your own examples, have fun doing it. Have fun. It doesn't have to just be service. Here's one. Set up a web page to list other piano teachers. If you're in music, it's part of your collaborative efforts. And where are you going to do it? When you return back to Mexico City. What about if you're a teacher? Set up preschool teaching English in a second language. Or, as one of our winners, just send an email to me. Siggy from Mongolia just sent me his email saying he was one of our winners, and he set up a school, he called it PUPS is the abbreviation, where they're teaching people TESOL and to prepare for GMAT and other exams. So he took some of his idea back to Mongolia, he started the business. So it wasn't Beijing, but there. What about setting up, maybe you want to do a nonprofit. You've learned some accounting, so during your lunch hour once a week, you teach people how to do QuickBooks. You're not making money, but that's a great idea to help make things better. How about if you're an exercise science major, being a personal trainer, consulting, instead of just doing a personal training, you're going to target nurses because they give care to elderly people and they need to have special training. Again, you do that back in your home country in New Zealand and Auckland. So this is the type of thing we want you to be coming up with your ideas, things like this. Fiji. I've been to Nadi, Fiji several times, and it's amazing to me. I have time there because there's a big, long layover. I wish there was a company there. So some of you, if you're from Fiji or some other place like that, set up a tour group that will take people for the 3 hours to get to know your island. Right? Something like that people might enjoy rather than being stuck at an airport for 5.5 hours or longer. Okay? Last one. How about doing something with the Kindle electronic book and instead have it so that it can be on a large screen monitor and target it to fitness centers in Southern California. Okay, so that people that are on their fitness machine, instead of just watching TV, they can read the book that they want. Okay, just think outside the box, think in the box. Okay, what you're really doing is you're going to launch and build a unique turnkey business. This is really what this is about. We've run out of time. I had a couple more things to share, but I think I want you to go home because this is enough. This is a workshop. This is just to get your mind thinking, and I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll try to work on things that are fun, things that are unique, and things that can pay you a little money. It may not be a full-time job. It probably shouldn't be at first. It should be something that's maybe on the side, whether it's, again, a language school, providing services. It might be making a little product or changing a product a little bit, making a little different cover for iPhones. Those are all innovative ideas. I hope and challenge you to be able to do that. Have fun. Keep coming to these workshops. I think there'll be a couple more. Get some new ideas as to how you can make it even better. I think there'll be things on giving pitches and about doing a little research, because you don't want to just spend all your time on an idea and then realize, oh, somebody else is doing this already. So I think the next one will partly talk about that concept of researching, and we'll also talk about how it's important to pitch. So thank you for being here. Good luck in your ideas. Make them new, better, cheaper, but for most of them, they're going to be something better. Thanks again.